All right, welcome back to QHSE Talks. If you're prepping for the CSP or ASP exam, you know occupational noise is a huge topic, and honestly, it can be a little intimidating. Well, we're about to break it all down, and I mean everything, turning this complex subject into your secret weapon for exam day. So, are you ready for this? Because we're going to jump right into the deep end. We're talking the exact formulas, those key regulatory numbers, and all the core concepts that show up on the exam again and again. Stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll be able to handle any noise question they throw at you. Let's do this.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, the hazard itself. Then we'll get into the law, the OSHA standard. After that, we'll talk about how to measure exposure, and then, the math. Don't worry, we'll make it simple. We'll finish up with controls and then a rapid-fire review of everything you need to memorize. Sound good?
All right, first up, the hazard. Look, you can't control something if you don't fundamentally understand it, right? So we're going to lay the groundwork here, a little bit of physics, a little bit of anatomy. This is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So let's get down to basics. What even is sound? It's really just a pressure wave moving through the air. And noise? Well, that's just sound you don't want to hear. Simple as that. We measure its pitch or frequency in hertz. These are the absolute building blocks, and you've got to know them before we can even think about measurements and dose calculations. Think about how we hear. It's actually a pretty cool mechanical process. Your outer ear, it's basically a funnel, just catching the sound. Then the middle ear takes over and amplifies those vibrations with these tiny little bones. But here's the part you really need to focus on for the exam, the inner ear. Specifically, a little snail-shaped thing called the cochlea. That's where the magic happens. Vibrations turn into nerve signals. It's also, and this is the crucial part, where permanent damage happens. Okay, you're definitely going to need to know the difference between these two types of hearing loss. First, you've got conductive. You can think of it like a blocked pipe in your plumbing. You can usually fix it. But then there's sensory neural loss. This is the one we're really concerned with in occupational safety. It's permanent damage to those super delicate hair cells in the cochlea. And when I say permanent, I mean it's irreversible, gone for good. And that is why we do what we do. Okay, we get the hazard. Now let's talk about the rules, the law. For any noise question on your exam, your brain should immediately go to this, OSHA 1910.95. This standard is the Bible for hearing conservation in the US, and there are a couple of key numbers in it you just have to know. Here's the first magic number. 85. 85 dBA. Burn it into your brain. That A just means it's weighted to how our ears actually hear things. So when a worker's average exposure over 8 hours hits 85 dBA, that's the action level. It's the trigger. The employer has no choice. They have to start a hearing conservation program for that person. And number 2, 90. 90 dBA. This is the big one, the permissible exposure limit, or PEL. This is the absolute legal line you cannot cross. If an employee hits this level, you can't just hand them earplugs and call it a day. You are required to use engineering or administrative controls to bring that noise level down. So when we say hitting that 85 dBA action level triggers a program, what does that actually mean? It means all of this. A real hearing conservation program is so much more than just earplugs. You've got monitoring, you've got hearing tests, training, keeping records. It's the whole shebang. And yeah, you can bet you'll see questions about any of these pieces on the exam. Okay, so we know the rules, but how do we actually figure out if we're following them? That's what this next part is all about, measurement. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how we quantify noise risk exactly the way OSHA wants us to. Check out this table because it shows one of the most important concepts for your exam, the 5 decibel exchange rate, or doubling rule. Just look at the pattern. At 90 dBA, you get a full 8 hours. But bump that up by just 5 decibels to 95, and your allowed time gets sliced in half, down to 4 hours. Go up another 5 to 100, and it's halved again to 2 hours. You have to understand this relationship for the calculations we're about to do. Now this is exam gold right here, a standard threshold shift, or STS. This is OSHA's official definition of a significant hearing change. It's not just any dip in hearing. It has to be an average drop of 10 decibels or more across these 3 specific frequencies, 2, 3, and 4,000 hertz. And if that happens, boom, it's an OSHA recordable injury. All right, deep breath. We're heading into the math. Now, I know this is where a lot of people get nervous, but I promise we're going to walk through it step by step and make it super clear. You cannot pass these exams without knowing these calculations, so let's dive in and master them together. First up, the noise dose formula. It looks a little intimidating, but the idea is actually pretty simple. All you're doing is adding up little pieces of their daily exposure. For every different noise level a worker is in, you take the time they were actually there, that's C, and you divide it by the time they're allowed to be there, that's T. Let's do a break example. Say someone works 4 hours at 95 dBA. The allowed time at 95 is 4 hours, so C over T is 4 over 4, which is 1. Then maybe they spend 2 hours at 90 dBA. The allowed time there is 8 hours, so that's 2 over 8, or a quarter. Add them up. 1 plus 0.25 is 1.25. Multiply by 100, and bam, their dose is 125%, way over the limit. Okay, so now you've got their dose in a percentage. But what if you need to turn that back into a single number, an 8-hour time-weighted average in decibels? Well, that's what this TWA formula is for. You just plug that dose percentage in for D. That weird number, 16.61, don't worry about where it comes from, just know it's part of the formula because of that 5 decibel rule. So if we take our 125% dose from before, you pop it into the formula, and it spits out a TWA of about 91.6 dBA. And that, my friends, is clearly over the 90 dBA Pell. Now, this is a classic exam trap, so listen up. You cannot just add decibels together. It doesn't work that way because it's a logarithmic scale. One 90 decibel machine next to another 90 decibel machine does not equal 180. No way. It actually equals 93 decibels. Why? Because doubling the sound energy only adds about 3 dB. To get the right answer when you have multiple noise sources, you have to use this formula here. It's the only way to do the math correctly. Whew, okay, the heavy math is done. So, we've measured the problem, we've calculated the risk, now what? What do we actually do about it? This section is all about putting that knowledge into practice. It's about controls and running an effective program. You've seen this before and you'll see it again. The hierarchy of controls is fundamental to safety, and for noise, it's super straightforward. The best thing you can possibly do is an engineering control. Fix the noisy machine. Put an enclosure on it, put a muffler on it. If you can't do that, you try administrative controls, like moving people around. And way down at the bottom, your last resort is PPE. Always aim for the top of the pyramid. Here's one more formula you absolutely have to know. The NRR, or noise reduction rating, you see on a box of earplugs. That's a perfect world laboratory number. OSHA knows that in the real world, they don't work that well, so they make you derate it using this formula. Let's run through it. Say you've got a TWA of 100, and your earplugs have an NRR of 33. First, you take that 33 and subtract 7. That gives you 26. Then you cut that in half, which gives you 13. That's your real NRR. So, 100 minus 13 gets you down to a protected level of 87 dBA. Don't fall asleep on the paperwork. These timelines are such easy points to score on the exam. And look at the big one here, hearing test records. You have to keep those for the entire time the person works for you, plus 30 more years. That's huge. Meanwhile, your noise exposure sampling records, just 2 years. You've got to know the difference. All right, we're on the home stretch now. Let's do a super quick rapid-fire review of the absolute must-know facts. If your brain is full and you can only remember a few more things, make it these. This is the stuff you just have to have locked in for the exam. This is a classic, the inverse square law. Just remember 2 simple rules. For a point source, think a single noisy machine, the sound level drops by 6 decibels every time you double your distance away from it. But for a line source, like a long conveyor belt, it only drops by 3 decibels when you double the distance. 6 for a point, 3 for a line. Got it? Okay, let's just boil this whole thing down. If you walk away with anything, let it be this. 85 dBA is your action level. That's when the program starts. 90 dBA is the PEL. That's the hard limit. And an STS is that 10 dB shift at 2, 3, and 4,000 hertz. Seriously, if you can recite that in your sleep, you're in great shape. And that's it. We've gone from the physics of sound all the way to the nitty-gritty of the regulations and the math. But remember, this isn't just about passing an exam. This is about keeping people safe. So the real question is, what are you going to do with this? How are you going to use this knowledge to actually make a workplace quieter and safer? Think on that. Now go ace that exam.